Evening monkeys, John from Irish Monkey here. I hope you're all doing well tonight. Right, bank holiday weekend one for you. Saw this on a link earlier from somewhere, from the Liverpool Echo from the 29th of April. It's absolutely despicable. Bent coppers covered up officer battering man in his home. 4 Merseyside police officers are covered up, one of them punching a man 5 times during a shocking, violent arrest. PC Darren McIntyre repeatedly hit Mark Bamber, leaving him with blood pouring from a cut to his cheek during a welfare check on the victim's partner. The officer flew into a rage after yelling, "You better wind your effing neck in," and threatening to arrest a 52-year-old and put him in a cell, who replied, "Are you sure?" McIntyre grabbed Mr. Bamber, spun him round, then punched him 4 times to the face and once into the ribs. His colleagues, PC Laura Grant and Lauren Buchanan Lloyd, switched off their body-worn video cameras midway through the unprovoked attack. Neither McIntyre, the female officers, or PC Gary Burke mentioned the punches when they later all gave inaccurate statements about the arrest. But their statements didn't match their own body cam footage, which revealed Mr. Bamber hadn't done anything wrong before he was attacked. Mr. Bamber, who was arrested on suspicion of assaulting McIntyre, complained of being attacked and was later told that no further action will be taken against him. However, following an investigation by the Forces Professional Standards Department, all 4 officers were charged over the events in Ainsdale in June 2019. McIntyre, 47, of Derwent Avenue, Southport, denied assault, causing actual bodily harm and perverting the cause of justice, claiming Mr. Bamber went to headbutt him. Burke, 44, of Homefield Grove, Maghull, Grant, 36, of Summerfield Grove, Waterloo, and Buchanan Lloyd, 26, of King's Close, Higher Bebington, all denied perverting the course of justice. And there's Mr. McIntyre, soon to be ex-PC McIntyre, outside court. A jury today found all 4 officers unanimously guilty of the charges following a 4-week trial at Nightingale Court, Liverpool Hilton Hotel. The trial heard the incident unfolded after Mr. Bamber's partner, who the Echo has chosen not to name, rang 999 saying she was feeling depressed and suicidal. Hugh Barton, prosecuted, said a short while later she felt better, so Mr. Bamber rang 999 and said the ambulance was no longer required in the early hours of June 19th. Following protocol, paramedics decided to carry out a welfare check on the woman, who the trial heard had previously been victim of domestic violence from Mr. Bamber, leading to convictions against him for assault and criminal damage. They said they requested the support of the police for their safety because the couple were known to be drinkers with mental health issues and they had an history of domestic incidents at the address. However, McIntyre would later concede that he had no knowledge of Mr. Bamber's history of domestic violence at the time of the incident. The 4 officers attended with the ambulance at around 3:30 a.m. when Mr. Bamber relayed that his partner didn't want to see them and initially refused to let them in. The court heard he eventually let them in after filming McIntyre and requesting his collar number and name, and McIntyre replying, "Can you spell it?" Comedian as well, eh? Mr. Bamber said, "You've got an attitude problem, you," to which McIntyre replied, "You have, you're getting on my nerves now," and Mr. Bamber said, "You're getting on mine." The court heard McIntyre became increasingly agitated, went right up to Mr. Bamber, who was calm, and said, I'm what? What if I'm getting on yours?" and jabbed his finger in his face. Mr. Bamber replied, "You're getting in my face now," and McIntyre said, "Am I?" Before the officer warned, "Yeah, you better wind your effing neck in because you're getting on mine, and next time you obstruct me during my job, I will put you in the effing car and put you in a cell." There's another one of them there. Which one is it? Let's have a look. PC Laura Grant outside the court. There we go, look. Soon to be ex-PC, I would have thought. The court heard Mr. Bamber replied, "Are you sure?" at which point McIntyre spun him round and started punching him. Mr. Barton said PC Grant had tried to calm her colleague down, and none of the body cam footage showed Mr. Bamber using or threatening any violence. However, the trial heard his partner started filming and she was arrested for obstructing an officer. The jury was told McIntyre, Grant, Buchanan and Lloyd all switched their cameras on at the start of the incident, which they were trained to do, to keep on as it is key evidence. However, Grant and Buchanan and Lloyd both turned off their cameras when things became violent, which Mr. Barton said was a deliberate attempt to prevent independent evidence being recorded. The court heard Grant hesitated, then turned away from the violence to turn off her camera, and Buchanan and Lloyd did the same. After being taken to the floor and continuing to complain that he hadn't done anything wrong, the victim was arrested before Grant called the police station and said Mr. Bamber had kicked off. Buchanan and Lloyd said in an interview that she and Grant discussed turning off their cameras off and whether they would say their batteries had died, but decided this would be too suspicious. The officers escorted Mr. Bamber to hospital, where they remained with him during treatment before he was taken to police station for questioning. Another one there. PC Laura Buchanan Lloyd leaving court. Now look at that face, because the next time you see that, when she's got back out, you'll be asking her for a Big Mac and fries. At that stage only, McIntyre uploaded his body cam and gave a statement, but didn't mention his aggression or punches. Prosecutors said his body cam didn't show his punches because he was standing so close to the victim, but Grant's camera recorded it in full. McIntyre falsely asserted that Mr. Bamber moved his head towards him and claimed that after being cautioned, Mr. Bamber had nothing to say. In fact, the footage captured Mr. Bamber repeatedly saying, "I haven't touched you, you punched me, I haven't done anything." Mr. Bamber was released under investigation. The three other officers were required to give statements, and 2 female officers uploaded their footage. The trial heard how the officers, including McIntyre, despite the fact he had already written his statement, spent around 2.5 hours in a room at Maghull Police Station. During this time, Burke was said to have watched and re-watched the footage before they all provided inaccurate accounts. Mr. Barton told the jury they lied and tried to shift the blame onto Mr. Bamber, with Grant and Buchanan Lloyd describing his behaviour as argumentative and confrontational. Grant claimed Mr. Bamber had singled out McIntyre, which was at odds with her footage, which showed McIntyre punching him and trying to calm McIntyre down. Mr. Barton said none of the officers made reference to the existence of body cam footage in their statements, a clear breach of procedure, which, even if they hadn't seen the attack, defied common sense, as it was the best evidence available. When the officers were interviewed, Buchanan Lloyd accepted she thought McIntyre was being unprofessional and said she actually wasn't sure about Mr. Bamber leaning in towards McIntyre, as she said in her statement. The young officer claimed she switched off her body cam because she was copying her tutor, Grant, but in reality, Buchanan Lloyd had turned her camera off first. She then said Grant had told her not to mention the footage and that she felt pressured about what to write in her statement. Grant and Burke made no comment, save for Grant claiming she meant to turn the camera on, not off. McIntyre was last to be interviewed and maintained that he thought Mr. Bamber was going to headbutt him. He said he hadn't viewed the footage when he wrote his statement and repeated he had used reasonable force. During the trial, he said it had been his honest belief Mr. Bamber was moving his head towards him in an aggressive way and his actions were part of a lawful arrest. He suggested they were also in self-defence, claiming that during the struggle he elbowed by Mr. Bamber. Prosecutors said any such movement from the victim was involuntary when he was being handcuffed with his hands behind his back. Lawyers for Burke, Grant, Buchanan and Lloyd all insisted their accounts were a substantially accurate representation of what happened. The jury rejected their officers' accounts after around 6.5 hours of deliberation. Judge David Aubrey QC ordered pre-sentence reports and remanded all 4 officers on bail until their sentencing on May 27th. Speaking after the case, a Merseyside Police spokesman said PCs McIntyre, Burke and Grant are all currently suspended. Constable Buchanan Lloyd is on restricted duties. All 4 constables will now face internal misconduct proceedings for breaches of standards of professional behaviour connected to a criminal conviction, which could lead to their dismissal from the force and then being placed on the National Barred List, preventing them from being re-employed in policing in future. So there you go, on May 27th we need to be looking back at that, see what happens. Okay folks, let me know what you think of the 4 officers down below, I'm sure you will. Like, comment, subscribe. Catch y'all later, stay safe.